Fruity, 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 fruity.
Greetings, my lovelies. Hello, it's Emmy. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be eating durian. If you're unfamiliar with durian, durian is a fruit very popular in Southeast Asia, and what makes it very distinctive is its smell. Some call it putrid, some call it odoriferous, some call it straight up stinky, foul, and bad. So today I'm going to be eating one. If you like these kinds of fruity fruit videos, be sure to check out the playlist where you can see some more interesting fruits. All right, let's go ahead and check this out. So I recently went to Boston and stopped into Chinatown and went into the supermarket there and found a frozen durian. This weighs a little over 7 pounds and it was $3.99 a pound, so it worked out to be about $28. So not exactly inexpensive fruit by any means. It comes in this netted bag. It is actually quite dangerous. It's very sharp. This is imported from Thailand. So you can thaw this out a few different ways. You can just let it sit on the counter like overnight. It takes a long time. So what I did was I placed this into a tub of cool water for about an hour and a half. So it still might be frozen in the middle, but I've read that it might be easier to actually scoop out the flesh that way. So we'll go ahead and see. So we'll pull this back, and it's actually a very interesting looking fruit. Look at that. This looks a little bit similar to jackfruit, but the spikes are much spikier. If you haven't seen that jackfruit video, it's in that playlist. It's so cool. It looks prehistoric or something. I love it. So the way that this fruit is structured, there are lobes of custardy fruit. Kind of see that through the spiky shell. So I think there's one lobe here, one lobe here, one lobe here. So I should mention that I don't smell any odor as of yet, but when we open this, that may very well change. From here to here is a lobe. So I'm going to cut here, make a little wedge, and see if I can get the fruit out. Ooh, it actually cuts a lot easier than you might expect because it's so armored. But you don't want to go too deeply because you don't want to cut the fruit if you can avoid it. Alright, so now I'm going to lift this up to reveal the fruit. Awesome! Look at that! Doesn't smell bad at this point. It is still frozen inside, but I've heard it actually makes it a little bit easier to get out in one piece. All right, now I'm using a spoon to kind of wedge it out. So there's one piece. And then here is its mate. So that is the cavity. So all of that is actually frost because it's still frozen inside. So here is my prepared durian. And as it's thawing, it definitely has a pronounced sulfurous, cheesy smell to it. Strong, very strong. And I imagine this is going to get stronger as it thaws out. This is not the first time I've had durian. I've had it twice, once as a child and once as an adult when I was visiting Thailand and I had it fresh. And I didn't remember just testing it, but I didn't really love it either. So it's been many years since then. So let's give this a taste. So it has this beautiful color. It almost looks like scrambled eggs and a very, very soft texture. Look at that. Just creamy. From what I've seen, people just grab this and they just eat it with their hands, but I'm going to kind of dissect this a little bit so I can show you what's inside. Inside here is a pit. And pull this back and you can see the pit inside here. A very large seed in there. And there should be another one here as well. But look at the soft texture. Isn't that incredible? All right, let's give that a go. Itadakimasu. Wow. It's not really my favorite. It's not disgusting by any means, but it's an interesting clash of almost savory and sweet flavors for me. Imagine sweet guacamole. That's what this tastes like to me. It has a really unctuous, creamy, beautiful texture to it. Really soft, like guacamole, and creamy. And it's oniony and kind of garlicky, but it's very, very sweet, like custard, like a dessert. So sweet and oniony, and that oniony, garlicky kind of flavor is quite lasting. Like even now I can taste the onion flavors in that. For me, definitely an acquired taste because it overlaps the boundary for me of savory and sweet in a way that's curious. Because some of this is still frozen, this is a little bit cool, and I quite like that. I like the cool effect of it. It almost makes it more like an ice cream dessert. If I can get over the fact that this is very sweet kind of onion, it's actually pretty good. I think the textures are really, really lovely. Very rich and unctuous. Again, the most similar thing I can equate it to is something like an avocado. It has that same kind of soft texture and just vegetal richness that's very, very satisfying. So if I can just set aside my onion flavor bias for just a moment, this is actually quite delicious. It's very, very sweet, but I think what's so signature about it is this creamy, creamy, rich texture. It's almost like a natural custard. You just open the thing up and you've got instant custard. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fruity Fruits, where I taste fruits that are fruity. Today, I have the most adorable fruit I have probably ever seen. Well, I'm gonna try to think of some other cute fruits. Something about when things are diminutive, when things are tiny, it makes them cute. Something about the vulnerability of smallness, I guess. But look at this tiny fruit. Look. It is so tiny. It's about the size of a grape, but it doesn't look like a grape because it looks like a tiny melon. Look! So stinking cute. It's like a miniature little watermelon. So these are not melons, although they look like tiny little melons, and their common name is called Timbalo melon. So the scientific name is Solanum carapens, and these are actually in the Solanaceae family, which is the nightshade family, which makes them related to tomatoes and eggplants. So stinking cool. And these were so kindly sent to me by Azea. Azea, thank you so much for sending these to me. Azea is 11 years old. She's been watching my channel, and she sent me these beautiful tiny Timbalo melons. Super stinking cute. She even included a life-size drawing. Look how stinking cute. So Timbalo melons are related to pepino melons, and if you haven't seen that video, please check out the Fruity Fruits playlist where I taste lots of other fruits, including the pepino melon, which is in the same family, but a different genus, of course. So these little fruits grow on an evergreen shrub and are native to South America. These are rare in the sense they're not cultivated commercially. Apparently little pests love to nibble on them, but they are adorable. I've read also that the outside does not taste very good, but I'm gonna go ahead and give that a taste just so I can describe that unpleasant flavor to you guys, because I'm sure you're curious. So when I receive these little guys in the little padded mailer, I noticed they have a very nice scent. They smell a little bit like juicy fruit gum, a little bit like ramune soda candy, but very nice smell to them. All right, enough chatting. Let's go ahead and give these a taste. So Zaya included instructions. Let me read them to you. First, cut the melon in half. 2, squeeze or scoop out the inside. 3, spit it out because it's not that good. I love your honesty, Isaiah. Look at that. Look at that beautiful pattern of seeds. See how it goes around like that? When you look at the inside, you can see how it's related to a tomato. The pattern of the seeds inside looks very similar to a tomato. So cool. If you look at the flowers of nightshades, you'll see why they're all related. They've kind of got this kind of star pattern to them, which is also reflected in the pattern of the seeds here. And it smells a bit like a melon too, a bit like a honeydew. It has that kind of slightly floral, cucumbery smell to it. Let me squeeze out the contents so you can see what it looks like. So juicy and little tiny seeds. See that? A little bit kind of stringy, a bit like okra or something too, a little bit slimy. The seeds look a lot like really tiny tomato seeds, although they're not encapsulated in any kind of gel though. Have you noticed that tomato seeds have a little bit of this gel around them? These don't seem to have that. Look how stinking cute. All right, here we go. Itadakimasu. So, the seeds are nice, kind of crunchy. Wow, that's interesting. It's definitely got more of a tangier tartar flavor than a melon, but it does taste a bit like a melon. It tastes a little bit like a honeydew. It's got that kind of cucumbery flavor to it, but definitely not sweet, tangy, a little bit musky. Have you ever had a muskmelon before? Muskmelons are actually delicious. They have a musky flavor slightly, but very floral flavor and very sweet. This, on the other hand, is more tart, but it has that distinctive melony cucumber flavor to it. The texture, slightly gooey. The flavor is quite lasting. I still taste it. And the seeds have a nice crunch. There's a lot of juice in there. There's not much of a texture per se. Let's have another one. Let's see if it has a different texture at all. So what I find really interesting is that this is called a fruit, or it's classified as a fruit, but I would consider this, in terms of an application in some kind of recipe, to be more savory. It almost has kind of an umami sense to it. It has a very lasting flavor, and it triggers interesting parts of your taste buds. All right, let's have another bite. It almost has like a cheesy flavor to it, kind of a funky, musky, tangy flavor with melon or cucumber. Now, I've been told not to eat the skin because the skin does not taste good, but I am just going to do this little taste right here. Oh, that's not so bad. It just has more of that kind of funky flavor in there. But I like that you have something to actually chew and bite. It tastes more succulent. If you imagine yourself eating like an ice plant, that's kind of what it's like, with a little bit of a tougher skin like a tomato, a little bit thicker than that, and a little bit more of a kind of a succulent crunch. But in terms of physiology, very similar to a tomato. If you think about scooping out the inside of a tomato, kind of pulpy and just juicy, completely different flavor. The skin is not unpleasant. It's just very strongly flavored. I'm gonna try another bite. Yeah, not exactly delicious, but not disgusting by any means either. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fruity Fruits, where I taste fruits that are fruity. Today, I'm going to be tasting this little ball of orange-red spikiness, and this is called a gak fruit. This fruit hails from Southeast Asia, and in Vietnamese, it's called qua guk. And guk means fruit, and it's spelled G-A-C, so in English we would call that gak. So this is the gak fruit. So I purchased this from Miami Fruits. It was not inexpensive. The fruit itself cost about $32, and in shipping it cost another $23. So in total, this fruit was $55. Ay caramba, quite expensive, but I thought it was so beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. I can't wait to see what's inside it and what it tastes like. This is the gak fruit. So its scientific name is Mamortica cochinchinensis, and it grows on a vine. It's also known as red melon and baby jackfruit. So if you've missed my other Fruity Fruits taste test, be sure to check out the playlist. The most recent fruit that I tasted was the noni fruit, which I'm currently fermenting into noni juice. That was quite interesting because it had a very kind of putrid smell to it. So be sure to check that out. Okay, let's go ahead and cut our cochinchinensis gourd. So I ordered this and it arrived in 2 days. I have to say, it doesn't look like a prime example. It's a bit dented and a little bit dried. I hope this is a good example inside. So that's one of the things I've learned from doing these Fruity Fruit taste tests, is that because these fruits are foreign to me, I don't really know what a prime example is supposed to look like. Although instinctively you kind of know. You're like, well, this is a bit dented. It looks a little bit dry. If you haven't seen the mangosteen taste test episode, there is a good example of a fruit that was not in its prime. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case here. All right, I'm gonna grab my knife and I'm gonna hone it because this skin looks a bit leathery. So I want to make sure I can get through it. Part of me doesn't want to cut it because it's just so stinking beautiful. Isn't nature amazing? Here we go. Ooh, it's actually not that hard to cut at all. So like many other red and orange colored fruits and vegetables, the gak fruit is very high in beta carotene and lycopene. Great, good antioxidants. Okay, I'm going to cut all the way around. Oh, I'm hitting some seeds here. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be incredible. Oh my gosh, look at this. Wowzers, look at that! Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. Look at that. It looks so alien. Wow. It just smells like a melon. It actually smells like a pumpkin. Wowzers. Okay, let me show you that. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Wow, it's so beautiful. Alrighty, so gok or gak fruit has to be one of the most striking fruits I have ever seen. It is absolutely incredibly beautiful. The intensity of the red is absolutely phenomenal. It looks like tomato skins in terms of the red intensity, or tomato paste. It is so red. So that must be the lycopene, which is the red substance in tomatoes as well. So super healthy for you. So from my understanding, this little exterior part that holds all of these seeds is not edible. What is edible is the kind of membrane that coats each seed, which is the bright red portions. Itadakimasu. Wow, it has a very odd texture. Very slimy and mushy. And soft, not like sticky or stringy, but just very, very soft. It actually doesn't taste like much. It just feels very odd on your tongue. Very, very soft. Kind of like an avocado. The flavor is very, very subtle. It actually doesn't have much flavor to it at all. Slightly nutty, just a tiny bit of sweetness. It tastes a little cucumbery, just a little bit. But its texture is what's really odd. It just kind of coats your entire tongue with this kind of mushiness. I was expecting it to be slimy or more membranous. Actually, in my previous episode of Fruity Fruits, when I tasted the pawpaw, the seeds were coated with a membrane as well. I was expecting it to have more of that texture, kind of like an actual sack. This does not feel like that at all. It's just kind of this mush that surrounds the seed. And here's the seed. Wow, look at that. The seed actually has some spikes around it. How interesting. I've never seen a seed like that before. Look, it actually has little triangular bits around it, which kind of echoes the shape of the actual fruit. That is fascinating. Oh my gosh. I was expecting it to be tangy for some reason. I think it just shows my associations with this particular color, orange, red. I think juicy, succulent, fruity, and tangy, but it's not tangy at all. So before I cut into this, I did express a bit of concern that this would not be a prime example of a guk fruit, but it seems to be great. It doesn't seem to be bad at all. Everything looks to be ripe and ready. So yeah, just because it's a little bit wrinkly doesn't mean the fruit is bad. This is great. That red is so intense, it looks like it's artificially colored, but it's not. It came from the plant like this. All right, let's taste another one. It does have a little bit of a molasses flavor to it, kind of a toasted sugary flavor, but it's not very sweet at all. But it tastes like molasses, just a little bit. And a little bit of cucumbery, melony flavor, just a touch. It's good. I like it. I think what's most odd about it is the texture, but the flavor is quite benign, very, very mild. So the guk fruit, the gak fruit, has got to be one of the most striking fruits I've ever seen. Absolutely incredible. The color is very intense, gorgeous, but the flavor is very benign, very kind of plain. Surprisingly, with all this kind of glamour, it doesn't taste like that much. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fruity Fruits. Today, I'm going to be tasting this. And this beautiful thing is a sprouted coconut. Isn't it incredible? This little thing right here, this green leafy thing will become a coconut tree. So I purchased these from Miami Fruits. I got 4 coconuts. They're priced at $40. That did not include shipping. Shipping was probably at least another $10 or $20. I ordered some other fruits that will be coming hopefully soon. Once the fruit becomes ripe, I'll be receiving an order of that, but I'll leave that as a little surprise. But that one should be interesting as well. But this is a sprouted coconut. Now, I've had a coconut before, and this is different because this is a much more mature form of the coconut. Now, when we think of cartoons and we think of coconuts, we think of the round brown balls that, you know, sit in the top of a palm tree. But in actuality, a coconut is inside of a husk. Now, this is what this is. The coconut, the kind of shaggy round ball with the 3 eyes that we all think of when we think of coconut, is actually inside this husk. So this pod has many stages of maturity. When it's really green, you can see people drinking out of it. They'll just lop off the top. It'll be this green and they'll have a little straw in it. You can just drink the coconut juice out of it that way, and that's when it's very young. As it gets older, you can peel back this husk and you'll have the coconut inside. Crack the coconut in half and you can have the coconut water. And the coconut milk is actually made from the meat of the coconut. So the white part of the coconut inside of the shell, that is grated and then it's squeezed, and that's how you get coconut milk. The water that's inside the coconut itself, the stuff that you hear when you shake a coconut, that's actually not the milk at all. That's the coconut water, which lots of people drink as an electrolyte. So at this stage, the coconut is even more mature. And what has happened is this coconut has fallen from the tree, landed on the ground, gotten some compost dirt on it, and is beginning to sprout. In fact, I think when people want these to sprout or encourage them to sprout, they actually bury them in some soil. So while the sprouting is happening, the energy from the coconut, the white pulpy part, is used to develop the stalk and the roots, which will become the new tree. And naturally, inside the coconut shell begins to change as well. It is no longer hollow, and a kind of spongy material develops. And that spongy material is edible. And that's what it means to eat a sprouted coconut. That is what I've learned from my research of sprouted coconut. I've never had one before. Absolutely fascinated to see what is inside this thing. So there are different methods to removing the husk from the coconut. I've seen people impale it onto a sharp stick and kind of just work the husk off. But most commonly what I've seen is people using a cleaver or some kind of machete. So I did this outside, but I'm going to quickly demonstrate what I did outside here. I'm going to keep the stalk on here and use that as a handle. Now I'm going to take my cleaver and I'm going to cut a line down here and another line sort of parallel to it to create a wedge. Here we go. Can also use the base. I think that's easier. So don't be in a hurry. Go slowly here. I actually watched a video last night of a fellow named Cap from the Polynesian Culture Center that uses his teeth to remove the husk from a coconut. Insane. Insane. Pretty amazing. All right, here we go. So this material here is coconut fiber, and this is used to make rope. It's also called coconut coir. I've seen it used in compost, but really fibrous, fluffy material. It's the coconut. Isn't that great? There's a little coconut nestled right inside. And then you see that the sprout is coming directly out of the nut. So we continue doing this using our muscles. All right, I've already muscled with this outside. And this is what you get. A coconut, isn't it great? A little face. In this case, this little face that looks like a little beaver teeth, that's where the stem was coming out. Using our cleaver again, but using the back of the cleaver, and then tap along the equator here. The blade is pointing towards you, so be very, very careful. Oop. Oh, I just heard it crack. I'm having ostrich egg deja vu. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link up there and down below. All right, ready? Here we go. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's so, so cool. Look at that. Have you seen anything like that in your life? Isn't that amazing? This is what it looks like inside. So the coconut meat, or the white portion of the coconut, has thinned out significantly. Already, isn't that amazing? It looks nothing like what we think of when we think of a coconut. Although this side does. You still have the white portion of the meat inside, and then you've got the brown, hard shell. But this thing inside looks like a little alien in the most lovely way. Very organic. You've got all these nooks and crannies, convolutions. So it's white on the inside and yellow on the outside. And let's break it and see what the texture's like. Do you hear that? It has a very nice crunch to it. When you smell it, it doesn't really smell like coconut. It has a slight kind of cucumbery smell to it. Itadakimasu. Wow, it has a texture that I've never experienced before. It's very light, yet it has a subtle crunch to it. It kind of dissolves, but there's a bit of a chew to it. Some people have called this kind of like coconut fairy floss or coconut cotton candy. It's not quite like cotton candy. It is light like cotton candy, but it doesn't dissolve completely like cotton candy. To me, it tastes a lot like coconut water. If you've ever had that drink where they serve it as a natural electrolyte, there's a tiny bit of saltiness to it, a little bit of tang, especially on the outside, and just that kind of interesting coconut water flavor. I think for me, it's mostly about texture. The crunch is very satisfying. It sounds in your head almost like you're biting into an apple or a pear, but the texture is completely different. Not mealy, but just kind of soft. And simultaneously crunchy and spongy. The porosity of this is very fine though. It's not as if you're biting into like a sponge that you would wash your dishes with those giant holes. This is very, very fine. So it's almost like you're crunching into, say, an Asian pear. You have that nice crunch, but it's not as watery. And the pores are really, really small, so it's just kind of a fine crunch. It's good. This kind of reminds me of tofu, if I were to think of some kind of analogy. It's a bit of a blank slate. It has some flavor, but not a whole lot. Texturally, though, it's very interesting. But yeah, not bad. Now, I also learned that you can eat the inside of the coconut here. This is actually pure coconut oil. Interesting. And it's got a very buttery texture. It's a bit solid, but it just kind of melts in your mouth. And a pretty subtle but present coconut flavor. You can also do this, scrape them and eat them together. That definitely changes the flavor. It tastes more coconutty, but again, not nearly as strong as a desiccated coconut. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fruity Fruits, where I taste fruits that are fruity. Today, I'm going to be tasting a fruit that came out of my $150 mystery box of fruits. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link up above and down below. And in that box, I received a bunch of seasonal tropical fruits, but I didn't know exactly what I got. And in that video, I mistakenly called one of the fruits a mangosteen, but as many of you corrected me in the comments, it was not a mangosteen at all, but a black sapote. Now, black sapote is actually related to persimmons, which we can find here in the US, usually in the fall. My dad actually had a persimmon tree when I was growing up. And he enjoys the variety called the fuyu, which is a little bit squatter. It's shaped kind of like a pumpkin. It has a beautiful orange color to it. And you can eat that one in a crunchy state. My dad actually prefers to eat them in that crunchy state. Now there's another variety of persimmon called a haichia, and it has more of a droopy shape. Now that one you cannot eat in its crunchy state. It is very, very astringent, almost caustic feeling in your mouth. It just tastes almost poisonous. You just can't eat it when it's unripe. Now that one you have to eat when it's very, very ripe. It almost feels like a water balloon. It gets so soft. And then you can peel back the skin and then you can eat it like a pudding. Now the reason why I mentioned the haichia persimmon is because the black sapote is similar in that sense. You must eat it when it's very, very ripe. Otherwise it has that same very astringent, caustic feeling, taste in your mouth. It's just really inedible. You have to eat it when it's super, super ripe. So I got my box of fruit 6 days ago, and at that time my black sapote was shiny and felt kind of hollow and light, and it was quite hard. And today, 6 days later, look at it now. Here it is. It is so soft and kind of wrinkly. You can even see how the bottom of it has kind of gotten squashed from its own weight. Now, this is a really great example of finding out when to properly eat fruit. Now, if someone handed me this, I would say, no thank you, that looks terrible. This is not a good specimen. This looks like it's too far gone. But this is actually how you're supposed to eat it. So that's one of the things I love about this Fruity Fruit series. I learned so much about not only the fruit, but of the world, but also how to eat the fruit properly. I also mentioned this because in some of my previous Fruity Fruits tastings, I don't think I got prime examples of the fruit. Oftentimes these are, shipped from faraway places, or they've been languishing in the fruit piles at the grocery stores. So that's another thing to take into account. Just because you've tasted a fruit and you didn't like it the first time, give it another chance. There might have been other extenuating circumstances that made the fruit not its best prime example. And now that I know that it's related to persimmon, I can see some of that resemblance, particularly in this leaf structure here. They are native to Mexico and the Caribbean, and they're also known as the chocolate pudding fruit, because what's really unique about this fruit is that inside the interior should be completely dark, if not black, hence the name black sapote. And then you just scoop it out just like you would a very ripe Haicea persimmon. Just eat it as it is, just as a very soft kind of custardy pudding. Now, I'm very curious to see if this at all tastes like chocolate. I am skeptical. I know it's a tropical fruit and cacao beans, cocoa beans, pods grow in tropical climates, but is it really going to taste like chocolate? I'm going to find out. Alrighty, so let's cut the black sapote. Oh my gosh, you see that? It just went pop. Ooh, I'm feeling some resistance. That's probably the seeds. Okay, I'm going to keep turning it and going all the way around. Now, I've read that this can contain up to 12 seeds. So what I've been doing with these Fruity Fruits is I've been saving the seeds, and if you're interested, I'll be doing a little seed giveaway. So maybe if you live in a tropical area, or if you have a greenhouse, or you could probably do it inside, see if you can grow one of these Fruity Fruits. All right, here we go. You ready for this? Oh my gosh, look at this. It's just collapsing under its own weight. Here we go. Oh my gosh, look at that. That is wild. Nature is so incredible. Look at that. Oh my word. So these are the seeds. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 black sapote seeds. And the pulp surrounding the seeds is what you can eat. Look at that. That's incredible. Isn't this incredible? Now on camera this may look black, but in reality it's actually a dark brown, kind of dark chocolatey color. Although I imagine as it continues to ripen it probably gets darker. But look at that, so beautiful. I love how the seeds remain embedded in one half, and this half you can see makes the complement. Wonderful. Alrighty, nature's chocolate pudding, let's give it a taste. Look, it even comes in its own bowl. Alright, I'm gonna scoop that. Look at the texture. The texture is very, very soft, kind of custardy, incredible. The skin is very thin. Let's see what it smells like. It doesn't really have much of a smell at all. Itadakimasu. Wow, that texture is phenomenal. So smooth and cool, not at all grainy, doesn't feel vegetal or pulpy, just very smooth, quite pudding-like actually. But it does not taste at all like chocolate, not a bit. It has a sweetness to it, not overpoweringly sweet, just a kind of subtle sweetness to it. The flavor is actually very, very subtle too. It tastes a little bit like slightly of pumpkin. So I think at this point there's almost this automatic connection between pumpkin and pumpkin spice, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that kind of squashy pumpkin flavor. Like if you've ever had canned pumpkin puree, that's a bit like what this tastes like. Or if you've ever had butternut squash that's been baked and roasted, it's sweeter than butternut squash or winter squash, but it has that similar flavor. But the texture is wonderful, much smoother than, say, like a butternut squash, which is pulpy and kind of wet, and the water kind of separates from the solids. This is just homogeneous and smooth, and it almost tastes like fatty, like there's some sort of egg or butter or something kind of binding this all together. But this is just the fruit in itself. Delightful. I think a little bit of chocolate added to this would make it even more delightful, because it definitely doesn't taste of chocolate. It doesn't have that slightly bitter, coffee, roasted flavor of chocolate at all. Although it looks a lot like it, it doesn't taste like chocolate at all, in the slightest. None. No connection. Like blindfold, you're like, no. If you look at it, it definitely looks like chocolate pudding. Because this has a beautiful, smooth, kind of pureed texture, and it has about the same level of sweetness as a very ripe banana, I think this would be perfect for, say, like a quick bread, like a banana bread recipe, or a kind of fruit bread recipe. I actually have a double chocolate chip banana bread recipe. I got it from Smitten Kitchen, I believe. I think I'm going to try making that and substituting the banana with the black sapote and then adding some chocolate. Oh yeah, that's gonna be phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something. Be sure to check out the Fruity Fruits playlist. There are so many wonderful, amazing fruits out there in this world. Also check out the mystery box video if you haven't seen that as well, because it's a really great box of just all kinds of fruity treasures. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for joining me. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media, like, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye!